All right, shalom to the elect of Israel. I want to start by giving all the praises, honor, and glory to whom it rightfully belongs, which is Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem HaKakwadash. And what I said was all the praises, honor, and glory belongs to Yahweh, who is the Heavenly Father, whom the world ignorantly calls God, in the name of his Son, Yahweh Shai, who is the Messiah, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus, in the name of the Holy Spirit, which in Hebrew is HaKakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that well. Peace, blessings, and salutations to the elect. And this lesson is going into this news article I came across, I believe yesterday, but it's from the World Health Organization, and it came out on September 2nd, 2025, and it says over 1 billion people living with mental health conditions. Services require urgent scale-up. It says more than 1 billion people are living with mental health disorders, according to new data released by the World Health Organization, which is WHO for short. It says with conditions such as anxiety, which is being worried, depression, right, inflicting immense human and economic tolls. While many countries have bolstered their mental health policies and programs, greater investment and action are needed globally to scale up services to protect and promote people's mental health. Mental health conditions such as anxiety and depression are highly prevalent in all countries and communities, affecting people of all ages and income levels. They represent the second biggest reason for long-term disability, contributing to the loss of healthy life. Let me read it again. They represent the second biggest reason for long-term disability, contributing to loss of healthy life. They drive up healthcare costs for affected people and families while inflicting substantial economic losses on a global scale. Right? So here you have, this, right? And this word, so let's look at these words. Anxiety first. Anxiety, it says a feeling of worry, nervousness, or unease, typically about an event or something with an uncertain outcome. Worry, eagerness. And depression, it says feelings of severe despondency and dejection, right? A mental condition characterized by feelings of severe despondency and dejection. All right. Let me see. Melancholy, misery, sadness, unhappiness, sorrow, woe, gloom. All right. So this is the World Health Organization saying that more than 1 billion people are living like this, right? And I seen this, I was like, man, this is none other than the results of the wicked being in rulership. Now, first, who are the wicked? So this is the book of Malachi, chapter 1 and verse 4. Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down. And they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom Yahweh hath indignation forever. All right, so the wicked are the Edomites, man. All right, in the beginning of this verse, it said Edom, and we know Edom are the descendants of Esau. All right, and they are so-called white people. All right, your Caucasians and everything. Okay, those are the Edomites. All right. And it referred to them as the border of wickedness. Okay? So, the scriptures say, this is the book of Job, chapter 9, verse 24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Right? Meaning what? The rulership of the world, all right, is ran by none other than a so-called white man currently. Okay? It says, he covereth the faces of the judges thereof, if not wherein. Who is he? So, the wicked is in rulership right now. Okay, they're the ones, that's why you see the so-called white man, in power, making legislations around, affecting various countries and world, in countries around the world, making laws, everything, the elites. All right. So they're in power, right? Now the scriptures say this is the book of Proverbs, chapter 29, verse 2. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, right? When the righteous, right, which is who? It's going to be Yahweh Shai elect ultimately the nation of Israel, okay? Because in that time, the nation of Israel is going to be made completely righteous, man, by having the law, statutes, and commandments put in their inward parts. And the scriptures talk about this, you know. Let me get this. It's the book of Romans chapter 7, verse 12. Wherefore the law is holy and the commandment holy and just and good. So there's nothing wrong with the laws, statutes, and commandments itself, right? You know, the problem is with us now, all right? You know, meaning this flesh. This flesh is sinful, okay? You know, this flesh is always, you know, it's prone to wickedness. It's prone to sin. It's prone to break the law, statutes, and commandments of the Lord, which are righteous. So it's going to come a point in time where the Lord is, you know, aka in the midst of World War III, Yahweh Shai is going to come back, beam up his elect, and change them into bodies that will rule forever. That will be forever righteous. All right, you know, that will be immortal, unable to die, unable to get sick, weak, right? And they're going to rule the earth in these bodies. All right. And ultimately, the nation of Israel is going to be righteous as a whole, okay? This is the book of Isaiah chapter 60, verse 21. Thy people, the Israelites, also shall be all righteous. They shall inherit the land forever, the branch of my planting, the work of my hands, that I may be glorified. Okay, so the all that said, thy people also shall be all righteous. So ultimately, right, and it's going to, you know, come when it's going to start when Yahweh Shai returns. Okay, that's when the beginning of Israel's rulership is in power. It said Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So the righteous is not yet in power. You see? So let's go back to Proverbs chapter 29 and verse 2. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. So unlike now, right? When the kingdom of heaven is established, right? When you know when the righteous rulership that is said to come actually comes, then the world is going to be a better place. All right. Then the world is going to be a better place. Keyword then. All right. It says, but when the wicked beareth rule, right? And as you know, you've seen, all right, as we read Malachi 1 and 4, the wicked is talking about Esau, the Edomites, the so-called white man. Right. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. All right. When the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. And as we've seen, and this is coming from like one of those official top websites, the World Health Organization, telling you that people are depressed, you know, people living with anxiety. You see, these are all because of a wicked rulership, man. The earth is being ruled wickedly, right? And that's one of the trickle down effects. Isaiah 24 and 4, the earth mourneth and fadeth away, and the world languisheth and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. It's Proverbs 29 and 2, simple as that. Okay? You know, nothing is right. There's this devil, you know, he doesn't institute the law, statutes, and commandments. You know, there's no land Sabbath, right? You know, nature is mourning, okay? You know, he rules wickedly and oppressively, doesn't judge properly. You know, he gives these women free course to do whatever they want, you know, with little to no consequences for them, but all the consequences is on the man. You see? Depression, all these things come up, you know, because of the wicked being in power, man. Right? But look, this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 32, verse 1. Behold, a king shall reign in righteousness, and princes shall rule in judgment. Right? And that king is Yahweh Shai, right? Behold, a king shall reign in righteousness. He's coming back, and he's going to enforce a righteous rulership on the earth. And princes shall rule in judgment, and the princes are the 144,000, the elect. Okay, the 144,000 men. All right, 12,000 men out of each tribe of the nation of Israel they're going to be that government body under Yahweh Shai ruling. All right, they're going to be his cabinet, like a brother said. Let me look up what is a cabinet? Not the cupboard, but it says in the UK, Canada, or other Commonwealth countries, the committee of senior ministers responsible for controlling government policy. In the U.S., a body of advisors to the president composed of the heads of the executive departments of the government. You know, let's see. A cabinet and governing is a group of people with the constitutional or legal task to rule a country or state or advise a head of state, usually from the executive branch. So these are like, the top, men that rule, alongside basically. So it's like so with the 144,000, that's what they're going to be doing under Yahweh Shah. Right? And they're going to be ruling in righteousness. They're not going to be, if you're going to have men that are in bodies that will not allow them to sin, that have the laws in their inward parts. Then you're going to be ruling. And then the world is going to be ruling in righteousness. It's going to be ruled properly. Okay? And like the elder was saying, look, the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Lord run deep, man. Okay? The laws, statutes, and commandments of the Lord run deep. Like the elder Yashawamba was saying, for example, you wouldn't have these people out here eating abominable foods, and and the animals, they play a part in for example, you have people that eat shrimp, lobster, and crab. Right? Let's look up something. What or how does shrimp? Let me just type this into shrimps clean the ocean. It says yes, shrimp help clean the ocean by removing parasites, dead skin, and other organic debris from fish and corals, which keeps them healthy and prevent disease. Certain shrimp, known as cleaner shrimp, establish cleaning stations on reefs where fish line up to receive a cleaning service. See? And certain fish you can eat. See? There's certain fish you can eat. Now, if you leave the shrimp alone, the fish can get clean. Okay, and now there's more food. It says certain shrimp, known as cleaner shrimp, establish cleaning stations on reefs where fish line up to receive a cleaning service, benefiting both the cleaner and the client shrimp. So it benefits each other. Other shrimp species act as detritus. I don't know how to say that, but it says sifting through sediment and consuming organic matter, further contributing to the ocean's cleanliness. Check that out. Let me see. What is a lobster's role in the ocean? People love lobster, right? It says lobsters are vital components of marine ecosystems. Look at that word, marine. Marine of, found in, or produced by the sea. Saltwater sea. Okay, so it's talking about, in a sea ecosystem. What is an ecosystem? A biological community of interacting organisms in their physical environment. So basically, it's a environment where how these different organisms, these different creatures, in this case, interact with each other. Right? Because lobsters are vital components of marine ecosystems, acting as both predators and prey that help maintain food web balance and nutrient cycling. As predators, they regulate populations of other invertebrates like sea urchins, preventing overgrazing on kelp and coral reefs. They also serve as food source for large predators, supporting biodiversity and acting as a crucial link. All right, so it goes into that. It goes into more stuff. All right, it says predator and regulator. All right, it says coral reefs, lobsters control populations of sea urchins and other invertebrates, which prevents overgrazing of the algae and coral that form reef habitats. Kelp forests. Spiny lobsters, in particular, are key predators of sea urchins, helping to keep kelp forests healthy. Scavengers. Lobsters also act as scavengers, feeding on dead animals and decaying organic matter, which helps clean the ocean floor. Says coral protection. Studies have shown that the spiny lobster's urine can repel predatory snails and worms, effectively protecting coral reefs from damage. Ecosystem health. By controlling prey populations and providing for other species, lobsters contribute significantly to the overall health, stability, and diversity of marine environments. And marine, we know, once again, is talking about pertaining to the water. So these lobsters, they have their role in keeping the ocean clean as well. You got what else we would like to eat? Crabs. Let me see. How do crabs benefit the environment? Right? Soil and sediment health. All right. Habitat engineering. right? The burrows created by crabs provide shelter for other marine species and contribute to the overall productivity and stability of coastal ecosystems. Okay, so you got that. Let me just see something. Those are, and it's, you know, stuff we don't know of, you know, different things, but I typed in how do birds, because people eat birds too and shit, man. You know, these are just some small examples showing you how the laws and statutes and commandments, all right, you know, benefit, right, the earth. Birds benefit the environment by controlling pest populations like insects and rodents, pollinating plants, dispersing seeds to promote new plant growth and forest health, and scavenging on carcasses to prevent the spread of disease. Their health and populations also act as crucial bioindicators, alerting us to environmental problems that need immediate attention. All right. You know, what else? You got, how do pigs help the environment? People love swine. Pigs benefit the environment by acting as natural recyclers, consuming food waste and turning it into nutrient-rich manure that improves soil health and reduces the need for synthetic fertilizers. All right. Waste management says pigs are nature's ultimate recyclers, able to eat and digest a variety of food waste that would otherwise be sent to landfills. Manure, so they like garbage disposals, man. And Lord said you ain't supposed to eat them. So if you don't eat them now, you know, garbage is taken care of, you see? And not only just food, right? You know, not only just food, but what else? You know, you got, for example, you know, the laws on adultery. If ain't no adultery around, you know, then you have, you know, thriving families, okay? Because adultery breaks up homes, man. It breaks up families, breaks apart families, because now, you know, the mother and father, all right, which are part of what keeps which are basically, you know, the component that keeps the family together, you know, the two components keeping the family together. You know, now the family, you know, now, but if adultery happens, right, now they got to separate from each other. You know, now the kids don't have that in the household, all right, that mother and father figure there to establish the household, and if they're separated, who's to say that they'll always see each other, you know? The father, you know, establishing that discipline, the mother, you know, doing her part, etc., you know? So this world is out of order, man, okay? The laws talk about, you know, no adultery, okay? I mean, no, I mean, it does say that, but also I meant to say the scriptures also talk about, the laws also talk about, you know, HOMO behavior. Now you have more men and women getting together, you see? Talks about a land Sabbath. Let me just type in, what is the land? And by the way, eating all these foods as we just went into, I'm trying to get all the meat off the bone, but eating all these foods, these abominable foods, they lead to health problems, man. Like eating pig, that shit leads to health problems. Now you don't eat a pig. Now, you know, there's now there's no health problems, man. Okay. But what else? You know, I was gonna type something in. Damn, I forgot. What was it? Shalaki, bear me 1 second. Oh, the land Sabbath. What is the land Sabbath, and how is it beneficial? It says the land Sabbath is a biblical commandment for the land to rest every 7th year, allowing it to lie fallow after 6 years of cultivation. Fallow means what? Of a farmland plowed and harrowed but left unsown for a period in order to restore its fertility as part of a crop rotation or to avoid surplus production. See? After 6 years of cultivation, meaning, you know, working on it. This practice is beneficial because it helps rejuvenate and maintain the fertility of the soil, provides sustenance for the poor, the needy, and wild animals, and promotes social justice by halting the accumulation of wealth and preventing oppression. Land rest. For 6 years, fields are sown and cultivated. But in the 7th year, the land is to rest completely without any farming activities like sowing or pruning. Self-sustaining growth. Whatever the land naturally yields during the Sabbath year serves as food for the farmer, the poor, hired hands, and the wild animals, man. Right? You know? But now what does Esau do? There's a term called fracking, and the brother Ward, head of the camp down here, goes into this sometimes, he mentions it. You know, what is fracking? Fracking or hydraulic, you know, it's basically drilling into the ground and collecting, you know, resources and things like that, you know. But the scriptures talk about these things, especially the 10 Commandments. If that was enforced around the world, everyone following Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, you see, you know, and not worshiping any other gods, then they would do what he says, and then everything would trickle down. They would keep the laws, you know. Let's just go into that. I don't even got to get, you know, too much. Let's go into some of those. Exodus 20, right? I shall have no other gods before me, right? There would be no idol worship, right? People, you know, praying to false, fake gods, right? A Sabbath day, verses 8. Verses 8 through 11. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the 7th day is the Sabbath of Yahweh thy power. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou nor thy son nor thy daughter, thy manservant nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. So nobody is supposed to really, you know, do any work. Nobody's supposed to do work on the Sabbath day. All right, you're supposed to rest. You know. But the 7th day is the Sabbath of Yahweh thy power. In it thou shalt not do any work. I read that already. Verse 11. For in 6 days Yahweh made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the 7th day, which is really 6,000 years he created on the. You know, the powers created, right, according to the blueprint of the Lord, and in the 7,000th year of creation, they rested. It says, wherefore Yahweh blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. See, people did that. You know, people will be able to rest, man. You know, they have a day of rest. You know, I mean, in this society, you know, they give you multiple days off, but even a day off, you know, stuff done got so bad that even a day off, you still got to work. See? Verse 12, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which Yahweh thy power giveth thee. You know, you will have a working family system. Think about that, no adultery. Okay? You know, a woman not stepping out on her man or another man, all right? Or another man not coming to take your woman, see? And, you know, you will have relationships will thrive, okay? And a man can have multiple women. Ain't nothing wrong with that. See? But the way society is set up, you know, they oppress the man here. See that? And they give the woman, you know, freedom to do whatever the hell she wants. All right? But, you know, if adultery, you know, you can't do that, you know, then there would be no, you know, relationships would thrive. Right? Families will thrive. Okay? Now, you know, you have the men not wanting to get with the women. All right? You know, basically, you know, realize it's better to leave them alone because one, that's wasted energy, and two, they know women is going to be unfaithful and step out on them. You know? See? Now there is depression. Okay? You know, these women are so caught up in the head and everything. Now, you know, they don't trust the men and all of that. The children, you know, fighting their parents, some having shootouts with them. See? Stuff is out of order, man. It says, thou shalt not kill, which means, really in the Hebrew, this is killer's ratazach, which means murder, you know. Basically, you killing someone unjustly, you know, for no reason. You would have no murders, you know. Murder wouldn't be a thing. Thou shalt not commit adultery. We just mentioned that. Thou shalt not steal. No stealing. You know, everybody has what they have. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. You know? And there's laws that trickle down from these. Okay, it says thou shalt not bear... Okay, I read that. You know, people won't be lying on each other and stuff like that. Verse 17, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, or anything that is thy neighbor's, man. Right? Covet means desire. We aren't to want in a wicked way what our fellow Israelite has. For example, you always just want his rather than working for it yourself. Instead, you have a wicked mindset of trying to have what is theirs and leave them with nothing. This can lead into stealing, murder, and adultery. So, if the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Lord were enforced on the earth, man, which they will be soon, but if they were right now, there wouldn't be all this depression and anxiety. What the hell you got to worry about when everything is taken care of? See? Back in the Garden of Eden, let me get something real quick. Because now you got people wondering how they're gonna make it through. You see, you got people wondering how the hell is they gonna make it through the end of the week? How they're gonna have enough to get something for themselves to eat, man? How are they gonna have enough to do X, Y, and Z? How are they gonna have enough? How? That's what that's what people think. How they gonna get to the end of the week, right? This devil has fucked the world up, man. And you know what? The Lord set him up to do just that. Okay? For a period of time. All right? But let me get something. This is the book of Genesis, chapter 3. And by the way, this devil got people barely exercise for the most part. Right? A lot of people are out of shape, fat and stuff, We're not eating real food. What the hell is that, man? We live on a planet, we're supposed to eat real food, man. We can't even eat real food. Now you got people eating, all types of messed up foods and stuff, getting overweight, slow, obese, Childhood obesity is the thing. When the scripture says, real quick, this is, where is it? This is in Proverbs. Okay. This is Proverbs 20:29. The glory of young men is their strength. See? That's the glory of a young man, being strong, agile, quick, having strength. All of that. That's a young man's glory. See, but now you got childhood obesity to where they can't even, bask in their, to live in that glory. See? It says, in the beauty of old men is the gray head, right? I wanted to get that, right? But, people overweight. See? Eating junk food. If we had this junk food and was eating naturally, just healthily, all right? Fruits, vegetables, your proteins and stuff like that. If that was, every person's diet, then, man, people would be in a way better condition. You see? Genesis chapter 3. I want to get this because going back to the time of the Garden of Eden, Genesis chapter 3. And verses 18 and 19. Thorns and thistles shall it bring forth to thee. Talking about the earth, because now, with certain plants, you got thorns and thistles, Back then, it wasn't none of that. It wasn't no thorns and thistles on the plants, stuff that could prick you when you go to pick it up. It says, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field, and the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground. For out of it wast thou taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. So basically, you have to work to eat now, because back then, the earth, would already have the food, it would just grow naturally up there. You could just go and take it off the trees and everything. See? Now this devil is messed up, man. I'm telling you, this devil's messed up everything. He's gonna pay for it all, just in due time. But so let me go get what I want to, get, because battery running low. This is the book of Isaiah 14, chapter 14, right? And verse, and the thing is, in the kingdom of heaven, all these nations are going to be under Israel and follow them, and follow us. They're going to be learning our laws, keeping our laws, This earth is going to be put back right, man. All right? Like that song, we are going to rule the world. Don't you know? Don't you know? We're gonna put it together. That's what the elect are gonna do under Yahweh Shai. This is Isaiah 14, starting at verse ultimately, man, the Lord's people is going to be back in their, in a perfect estate. Okay, but Isaiah 14 and start at verse 5. The Lord hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers, and we know who the wicked is now. Okay, once again, the wicked is Esau, the so-called white man, right? The scepter, right? And the staff is talking about their power. That's what this is gonna happen when Yahweh Shai comes back. He's gonna rip them out of power, and then, things are gonna be starting to get back right, man. There's gonna be some straightening around here. Verse 6. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted and unhindered. Right. That's what that's what Esau does. Ruling. Look how he treats other nations. He bombs them, goes to their land, steal all these different things. Okay? Look how he's ruling the world, man. Complete wickedness and destructively, right? It says, he that ruled the nation in anger is persecuted and none hindered. So when he goes down, nobody's going to object to it. All right? Look what happened when he goes down. All right? Because once again, not only is the people suffering, but nature itself, man. Nature itself. You have Hillary Clinton went back, I guess when she was running or whatever. She said, we're putting holes in that little glass ceiling, talking about the ozone layer, which is the firmament. Putting holes in the ozone layer, right? And you can't. These devils. Anytime you try to blame them, they always act like that they're not the only ones involved, or try to shame you for blaming them. But I mean, look, our so-called Blacks, Latinos, Native Americans messing the ecosystem up. Are we the ones that came up with all this air pollution and deforestation and wildfires and stealing the natural resources of lands? Are we the ones that done that? Are we the ones that that's not us. It's not no Chinese, Arab man, East Indian man. No, it's the so-called white man. It says, but look, when he goes down, it says, verse 7, the whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing. Let me look some of these words up real quick, man. Lord willing. All right, I got to hurry up because I don't want this to cut off. It's less than I really want to do. Getting into it. Isaiah 14. That word, let's look up that word, rest. It's Nawak. I believe this is the name of Noah. I believe, Salakia. All right, Salakia, I might be wrong. Salakia if I'm wrong. But it says to rest, settle down and remain, right? To repose, have rest, be quiet. See? Quiet, shakwat, to be quiet, to be tranquil, to be at peace. Scriptures say real quick. And Trump just labeled the Department of Defense the Department of War. Revelation 6:4. And there went out another horse that was red. He saw Edom, the so-called white man. It's talking about him. And power was given him. See? This man was set up to be like this. In the earth. He was set up to do all this destructiveness. Because power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth. See? He's set up to do this, man. He's set up to be like this. Okay, he's set up to take peace from the earth with all this destructiveness he's doing, man. He's set up for this. It says, and that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword. His blessing, the sword. They got the nukes, the guns, and all of that. You see? So going back, I'm gonna finish it. All right. It says they break forth in a singing. Ranah, ringing cry of entreaty, supplication, and proclamation, joy, praise. So when he goes down, right, and the NLT says, but finally the earth is at rest and quiet. Now it can sing again. See? When Esau is taken out of power, the earth is going to be peaceful, man. It's going to be rest, is going to be ran righteously, man, too. Right? Nature is going to be good. The birds, you're not going to have to worry about being hunted. And certain animals ain't gonna have to worry about being hunted. Certain animals are even gonna be at peace. See? Ain't gonna be no more air pollution and chemtrails in the air. Food and stuff is gonna be right. Ain't gonna be no more depression. I mean, this world is not going to be ran wickedly no more. It's going to be a peaceful earth, man. You know, peace on planet earth is coming in the kingdom when the Israelites are back in power. Verse 8, yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since thou were laid down, no fellows come up against us, right? So you get the idea, right? And because of the battery, I'm going to end it with this. 2 Peter 3:13. Nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for new heavens and a new earth. New heavens meaning a new rulership, right? Lucifer has to fall from heaven first, being a so-called white man. Lucifer, light bearers, the Illuminati, the elite, because they have wisdom on the left-hand side. They got to fall from, you know, this power seat they're in first, right? We're looking for Jacob to be in the power seat, rulership, under Yahushua, you know, in the kingdom. So we look for the kingdom, you know, Jacob's rulership. Jacob is the beginning of it that follow it. It says, in a new earth, new earth meaning a refreshed planet earth. Ecclesiastes 1:4, the earth abides forever. So not the earth is going to be destroyed, but it's talking about a new planet earth, man. It's like a refreshed planet earth. It's going to go back to the way it was during the Garden of Eden. So in 2 Ezra 6, it talks about how the flowers, you know, had wonderful smells to them, you know, pleasant smells and everything. You walk into a garden, you're supposed to smell. I'm around a whole bunch of flowers right now. I don't smell nothing, man. All right, but it says, wherein dwelleth righteousness, because it's going to be a righteous planet earth when Yahushua comes back and sets up the kingdom. So this should, you know, so really we're advocates for good. People talk about, you know, we're so hateful and everything like that. Well, call it what you want. All right, but we're advocates for good, as you see, advocates for righteousness, because we understand when this devil goes down, earth is going to be ruled properly, man. Okay, and it's going to be set back right, and it's going to benefit. It's going to be beneficial. It's no longer going to be a bad place to live. So, all in the Lord's time. So with that, giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Akakwadash, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, every well. Peace, blessings, and salutations to the elect. Shalom.